All right, crisis is avoided. We are back with a fully charged mic. That was scary. I was scared. I was. All right, today is a little bit of a different kind of video. This one, I don't have an outline at all. Normally, I outline all these. I wanted to go off the cuff for this one because this is a story time, and I haven't really experimented too much with story times. I've obviously disclosed a few things here and there that I feel are relevant, but this is another video that was an idea by my friend Bright. Watch the check it video. It's in my description. I told him I would plug it, so I'll plug it a second time, I guess. And he suggested, hey, do you have any story time type stuff? Because your vibe of your videos seems to really be like you're just talking with your buddy. Like you're just sitting with your buddy talking about games, which is the vibe I want to cultivate. And I was like, you know what? I do. And I started thinking about different moments of my life that would make good story times. And this particular one ties together both King of the Hill and Resident Evil 4, which is going to sound very odd. So let's get into it. Way back. We're going back in time to 2008. Oh, scary. I had just moved. I had just moved houses, and my parents actually got a really good deal on a house, partially because of the market crash, I think. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't really know how they pulled that off. So I had been in a new house. Thankfully, I had made some friends at a new school. Things were going a lot better for me than they had been because middle school is a really rough time, and that was when I was in about 8th grade. And when we moved, we only had one Xbox 360. Eventually, my parents would be able to get me my own because my dad and I had to share one. He wanted to play Halo, and I wanted to play other games than Halo. So we ended up having to split at some point. But before that, the only 360 was downstairs, which means that if I wanted to play any video games upstairs, my options were much more limited. I still had my PlayStation 2 and I still had my original Xbox, but my original Xbox had a power supply issue. So it was very unreliable. Plus, if I was playing an Xbox game, I would probably be playing it on my 360. So my PS2 was really my main go-to when I was upstairs to play games. But my PS2 library was kind of small at that time because I just hadn't really been cultivating it since I got my 360. And really since I got my Xbox. I played a lot more on Xbox once I got that over my PS2. But my PS2 was primarily used for the Metal Gear Solid trilogy. I played Sly Cooper 1 and 2 on it. I think I had a few other games that were really cool. But that was pretty much what I played. So I didn't experiment too much. And if I wanted to play it, it was still hooked up to an old Zenith CRT that we had from when I was a child. Like I had this TV until I graduated high school. We had that TV a long time. Big old TV. Just sat it right on the floor next to the other TV in the game room that we had. So basically, I didn't have a TV in my room. If I wanted to enjoy a game, I could go downstairs and play on the Xbox 360, but not when people were using the TV. Or I could go upstairs and play PS2 on the CRT. And the benefit of that was that the other TV in the game room had a cable box. It had its own cable box. This was revolutionary for me because I didn't have to watch the same thing that was being watched in the living room. So the cable box got all of our cable. And the channel that I usually had it on was Cartoon Network because at night I would get Adult Swim. And Adult Swim was like, ooh, this is what the 13-year-olds are watching. So I would put it on. And if I were playing a game, then I'd be playing next to it on the PS2. And around Christmas break that year, was when I decided I was going to play Resident Evil 4 for the first time, having never played a Resident Evil game in my life, right? I knew about the series, I respected the series. I think 5 hadn't come out yet, so 4 was still not exactly the most recent one, but it was like the most recent mainline one, and it got a PS2 port. So I was with my mom in Walmart, and somehow, some way, I had some Christmas cash. They had it on sale for $20. It was like a value deal. And I was like, hey, Mom, can I buy that? And she was like, I don't care. And the Walmart employee didn't do the whole rigmarole of like, this game is rated M for blood and gore and violence and whatever. He literally just sold it to me, like didn't make eye contact with my mom, so I probably didn't need her. Would have been nice to know. But that's fine. And we went home and I started playing it. Again, having never played Resident Evil. This is the first time I've ever played it. And Resident Evil 4 is a hell of a way to start, especially because I also never really played a survival horror game, and I never really played one that wasn't really meant to be easy. Because when I played games, I usually played them on easy, or when I was feeling spicy, normal. At this point, I had only played Halo on easy or normal. I had never played on heroic, never played on legendary. They scared me. So Resident Evil 4 was this first real challenge for me, and at first I was stressed. I was like, man, this is tough, this is scary. And so something that I would do to sort of calm myself down was what we now know is, what we now call second screen experiences, I would turn the other TV on and I would put it on Adult Swim or Cartoon Network or whatever was playing at the time. And I would let the sounds of that keep me kind of chill while I was trying to figure out how to play Resident Evil 4. And at that time, Adult Swim had started picking up King of the Hill because I think Family Guy had left for a while. I don't know if they have it again, or I don't really know what the deal is with that. So because I was used to Family Guy, Futurama, other kind of the more niche Adult Swim shows like The Oblongs or 12 Ounce Mouse or Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I liked those shows, which again, no real moderation of content in my household, as you could tell. King of the Hill was a very different speed. To me, it was a very boring show. It was a boring show about nothing. It was like Dilbert, where I guess adults find this funny, but I don't understand it, and I don't think I ever will. Here's the thing, I never really watched it because I had written it off that way. And when you're 13, you tend to write things off in such a manner. So I'm playing Resident Evil 4, and I'm dying a lot. I mean, like a lot. I want to say I remember that it was when I got to the island. And it was when I got to the castle. The castle was when I started struggling because I couldn't just headshot things anymore because, as you know, if you've played Resident Evil 4, once the first night falls and you start headshotting the guys, their heads might explode and then they get the, like, slicey guy popping out of their heads. I don't actually know the full name of it. The Plagas, right? So that was stressful and I wasn't doing good. I didn't really understand that I needed to be upgrading my guns. I was mostly just buying ammo, or like I would try to buy the better guns without really understanding if they were better or worse, or that you should upgrade them, or that they had different use cases. So I had no idea what I was doing, and I was stuck with Ashley, so that was another layer. And I was ready to quit the game. I was like, I can't do this. I need my baby mode easy games. And as I was dying a lot, the load times were not great because it's the PS2. And King of the Hill was on, so I kind of sat back and I started watching it while I was waiting for the load to come through. Or maybe sometimes too, I just needed to pause and take a break for a sec. And as I'm watching it, it dawned on me that this show takes place in Texas. This is what I mean where I had never watched this show really. Because that's its thing, is it takes place in Texas. But this is interesting to me at this time because I live in Texas. And so do they. So all of a sudden now there's a show about my state. And say what you will about Texas, while I don't agree with the government at all in any way, shape, or form, I do like living here. It's my state, right? This is where I live. This is my home. I care about it a lot, and I always have, and I always will. It's part of why I understand why people are very in the way of, as soon as I can leave Texas, I will. I want to go and I want to live in the Northeast, or I want to live somewhere that's more aligned to my ideals and values. And I get that, but I also think this is my home and I was here first. And I want it to go the way that's better for everybody. So I would like to stay. Also, I can't let go of HEB. I just can't. So this is a show about my experiences. This is the first time I've really had something that I can like really connect to. And I start watching it and I realize, oh my God, it's about where I live. Now, granted too, the show takes place in Arlen, which is Arlington. It's the northern part, kind of near Dallas. And I don't live anywhere near Dallas, but it was cool because for the first time, I felt like my experience was being understood. And it wasn't being understood in the way that Texas history classes were, where like we watched a video about the Alamo and Davy Crockett, and I remember we watched this movie where this kid was like being bullied, so he goes back in time and he meets Davy Crockett and he watches Davy Crockett smile down a bear, and then he comes back and he smiles down his bully. If you watch this video or this movie and you know what it's called, please tell me. I have no idea what it's called. Laundry's done. But this was the first time a show had understood Texas and understood where I lived. And then I realized that the show was actually very funny. It was just not funny in the same way that Futurama or Family Guy were, because it wasn't just like, have a good time. It was different. It was smart. It was humor that you had to sit and watch to understand. It wouldn't make sense like the cutaway gags do. And it started to really click for me that I enjoyed the show. And the thing that really sealed it, the first full episode that I watched of King of the Hill, and this is probably the best one for a 13-year-old who doesn't understand comedy to watch, was the one where Bobby starts taking the the women's self-defense course. That's my purse, I don't know you, that one. Probably the best episode that I could have started with. So I got hooked. I was like, oh my God, I like King of the Hill. I get it now. Oh my God, I thought this was a stupid show for so long. And then I looked at Resident Evil 4 and I realized I can do this. It was weird. It was like in this one moment where I had this sort of self-actualization where I realized that not only were my experiences felt by other people, but also I needed to grow up a little bit. Because this thing that I had written off for so long that I thought wasn't for me and didn't make sense actually was. And I just needed to understand it better. And so I looked at Resident Evil 4 and I was like, okay, I think I've been going about this the wrong way. So here's what I did. I started a new save. I just wrote off the original save because I tend to do that. When I think I'm misunderstanding a game, I'll start a new save so I can start fresh. I've done this with The Witcher 3 like 4 times. I start a new save and then I go and I use the computer, which is still in the computer area. We had like a computer area upstairs too because we didn't used to have computers in our pockets. And I look up a guide for Resident Evil 4. And this is one of those old Game Facts guides, so it's written in ASC2, so it's got all the like fun font type stuff going on where they spell out the logo in ASC2. And I start going through, I'm like, okay, I need to understand what I'm doing. And I learn a lot of really important mechanical things that I had just ignored. Things like you can shoot them in the knee, and then when they're down, you can roundhouse kick them. You see, you're probably hearing that, and you're like, did you not know that? No, I didn't. I was 13 and stupid. So that plus learning how to do headshots better, conserving ammo, using the shotgun as a crowd control thing rather than just as a delete this thing now button, saving grenades, using melees as much as I possibly can, positioning, understanding how to actually upgrade your guns and when they're better or not. Those were all massive things. So when I went back and I started playing again, it was a totally different world. And I was like, oh my God, it turns out that if I just learn the game a little bit, I can do way harder things than I ever thought I could. And then I started playing my games on higher difficulties. And I did my first legendary run of Halo 3 in probably like spring break of 2009, I think. Because that was my 8th grade. Yeah, still 8th grade. And we got a few extra days because of swine flu. That was awesome. That was great. That was like so much better than COVID because swine flu was just like this not really scary thing. Maybe it was for people who had it. I might be talking out of my butt there. But those extra days meant I could do a legendary playthrough. So I did my first legendary playthrough of Halo 3, and it was hard. It was my whole spring break. Minus there was a couple of days where I went out of town to see my grandparents, and then I came back. I also watched Watchmen with my friends. Not the best movie, but I still appreciate it for what it is. And I beat Halo 3 on Legendary, and I never ever would have been able to do that without that King of the Hill moment, which was crazy. Because again, it made me realize that this whole time I've been bashing my head into walls and not understanding why I can't get past certain things. And it was like I grew up in that moment. It was like the first time that I can actionably tie an experience of me growing up to a game. And it wasn't just I was playing this game and then all of a sudden I was older. It was like, no, I felt the neurons connect in my brain that like the things that I thought I could only do weren't true. And the things that I thought were unchangeable could be changed. It was weird. And it sounds very odd considering it is such a small time story relative to everything else that you could have. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I saved someone from a burning building because I knew how to do the Leon diving out the window. No, none of that. It was just realizing that if I really put my mind to things, I could do really cool things. And that's a really good thing to learn going into high school. Because at that time, too, I was getting more serious about my extracurriculars, and I was starting to understand that I could do really fun, cool things. And I didn't just have to be a loser who stayed at home and played games on easy mode. Do I play games on easy mode now? Kind of, yes. Rebirth, I'm using some of the cheats because it's just such a massive game. But for the most part, it's where my love of challenging myself and playing on higher difficulties came from. And that eventually spawned my very first YouTube video, which was that Kingdom Hearts 2 one, where I finally played on critical mode because I knew I wanted to. So I wanted to challenge myself, and I think it's interesting. It all ties back to that moment. So I don't know how many people are going to watch this. This one might bomb like the reading video did. That one, whew, that's a 10 out of 10 if I've ever seen one, using some YouTube lingo. But if only 10 people watch this, if only 4 people watch this, I really hope that this story connects to you somehow, some way, and makes you think about what are those moments in your life where you actually connected to a game. And I want you to tell me about those in the comments. Like, really, what is a moment where connecting with a game or even another form of media really changed your perspective and made you realize as you were getting older that you could be different or you could do different things? I want to hear about it. I think this is all fascinating. I love this kind of stuff. This is day, what is this? Is this 28? Let me check the counter. Yep, day 28, guys. We're so close to doing 30. I am immensely proud of myself for getting this far, and I'm immensely proud of myself for continuing. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I would love for you to watch the rest if you haven't already. I have a playlist conveniently, so you can see my growth from the very first video all the way through this one. And I don't know what's next after 30. I still got a few more to go. Thanks for watching.